Get ready for the world's greatest Arsenal podcast. Welcome to another podcast by Guns and Yellow Ribbons. Enjoy the show.
Hello, welcome to another episode of Guns and Yellow Ribbons. My name is Fergus. I am your host. I am joined by my sidekick, my good pal, my old mucker, Gooner Hilsey, Trev. I'm also joined by a guy that we've done a really good series with in the summer, the Arsenal History series, Mark. And we'll talk about some of his books. And we thought we'd bring in a special guest from Burkamp Wonderland. We got Dan. Dan, since you're new to this show, say hello and how are you doing? It's great to have you on here. We have been trying for a little while to do some collabs.
Yeah, I'm fine. Thank you very much for asking me. I'm no stranger to the show. I love that elongated series of the history that you did with Mark and Andy, and some of them I watched twice. And it's all I could do not to make notes as I was watching it. But I thought only I care. There's none of my friends would be interested. None of my lot care about history really. They probably don't even know Arsenal existed back then. So I really enjoyed those, and I watched most of your shows. Yeah, it's good. Thanks for asking me.
Really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Mark, from the ArsenalHistory.com. You've written a few books as well. Mark, welcome back for I'll say a normal show, but it's just a football show. But also, we do have a historic reference that we do want to talk about, because we're going to talk about Ray Kennedy later on and pay some respect and remember. It's going to be beyond my era, but you guys will, I'm sure, fill that area. Mark, welcome back. And your background's a little bit different.
No. Exactly the same. Just wait.
He's going to do that again, isn't he?
Of course I am. Blimey. No, it's different room. Different room. The other one, the lighting's terrible. I mean, it's terrible in here as well, but it's better in here than it is there. I can actually see things. So, yeah.
Well, the angels are looking down on you by the looks of it anyway, at least. Well, that's
I'll
what
put
it looks like.
I'll put the decorations back on if you want.
No, it's all right. It's all right. It's all right. Although decorations are allowed now because it is the 1st of December. But my mum used to make us only put the decorations up after there's some church festival on the 8th of December, and you weren't allowed to put your decorations up until after the 8th of December. Trev, feeling better? I know you were on the mend and you didn't make Newcastle for whatever reason, but health first.
Yeah, definitely, Fergus. I'm feeling better every day. I'm fighting. I'm fine now, and I'm ready to go tomorrow night. Can't wait to get up to Manchester and see my first game in a couple of months. So, all good. Yeah, it's been as with the boys have just mentioned. It's been a bit of a sad week because one of my first heroes has sadly passed away. But I'm thinking about the present day as well and what the possibilities are for this team, and it excites me again. And do you know what? It's funny what Dan just said and Mark about that history series we did, Fergus. It popped up on social media again earlier this week, didn't it? You put the link up, and do you know what? Even though I did them and I knew what was on them, and I thoroughly enjoyed the company on them, and I knew what was coming up, I've watched them all again this week because. It was a great series to do. And for Arsenal fans like us that like thinking about the history of the club, they're perfect. And I loved every second of them. So, yeah, feeling better, mate. Can't wait for tomorrow. And let's get into this podcast, eh?
Right. On the back of the history thing, and before we go into the football side of things, because to be honest, the football's probably going to take a lighter side on tonight. One with the guests and two with the news we had in the week. Mark, you've done 3 books. One yourself, which was The Royal Arsenal, which is all about the champions of the South, and we talked a lot about that in the very first of that history series. And you also worked with Andy on The Complete Arsenal, which I'm sure is not far away from Trevor's hands right now. Look, there you go. It's in his hands. He lives and breathes by that book. And the other one you've done with some other guys, which is You've Only Got One Song. Give us a brief rundown of about how you got into it and the various books and where people can get them, and then we'll move on to the other.
Well, I've actually done 6, but that's another thing. There's a few more others which are earlier, which I know Dan's got, The Crowd, and which was my dissertation for certain things, and the Woolwich Arsenal as well. No, I mean I'd sort of, I don't know, I said to you before that I didn't really watch a lot of football. Well, I did watch a lot of football, but I stopped watching 2006 to 11 because I just couldn't be arsed with it anymore.
You didn't miss anything.
No. Yeah, that's become quite evident actually. And I just saw a website about Woolwich Arsenal run by Tony Atwood and Asa. And I just said to them, "Are you interested? I've done a dissertation on the crowd at Woolwich Arsenal, Royal Arsenal, blah blah blah." And said, "Yeah." So I basically got talking, met up with Andy, and we took it from there basically. His interests are more, as I said, on the pitch, and mine are more off the pitch. So I'm more interested in the crowd and what happened at certain things, and he's more interested in the playing stats. So we sort of work that way. We work well that way.
I still use the stat from, I think it was our first episode of the series, which was I came along and I thought I was really clever, and which I'm never really clever, Mark, you know that. But I came up, I thought was really clever, and I said, look, boys go in for 2 pence, men go in for 3p, women got in for free. What? No, not very many women went to football back in 1891 then. And you said 40% of the crowd were women because it was, and then you talked about the book and so on there as well.
Yeah, I mean, 40% of the crowd were at a specific time. It wasn't 40% all the time. It wasn't mainly blokes. But I mean, I said 10-15% were women for most games in those days. Certainly 1890 to 93. I think it changed a bit when they moved to the Manor Ground, when they become Woolwich Arsenal. There's still women there, and you see pictures in the crowd. There's the odd woman, and women were definitely in the stands. But it was more of a society thing, the 40% figure, and that was 1890 when they opened the Victor Ground, because they always made a big thing about it, and people just go along. And once I think they realised that it was muddy and it was a bit bitty. Then people sort of stopped going, and women sort of stopped, but they used to go into the stands. There wasn't that many in the terraces, but at the start of the Victor period, there was a lot of women.
It was just really interesting to get some of that information and that stuff, and that's what we did get from the series and from your books. And Dan, you're not shy of contributing to a book. I know there was a book that you, to be honest, it was Mark that put me onto this, that you you've done a chapter, I think was in the Arsenal for Everyone, Embracing Diversity and Equality by David Seeger. Enlighten me. I haven't got a clue. I'm dyslexic. I like to watch everything. I don't read nothing.
I'm exactly the same now. I can't read books. My eyes wobble. I can't. If I'm reading a book, my mind will start wondering what I'm having for dinner or how many mice you could fit on an elephant, and then I just think, and I forget what I've read, so I have to go back and read it again, and I don't bother anymore. But it's Dave, I've known Dave for many years. He's been on the show every time he's a few times, and when he writes books, he's been on. And he said, we're doing a book about people with disabilities and diversity and things like that. I said, would you like to be in it? I said, why me? He said, well, you've been running the podcast for a long time. I said, yeah, but no one listens anymore. I've only been doing it a long time. So we're about the 5th one to ever start it, and it's only Arseblog still going. And he went, no, it'd be good. So he rang me up. And we spoke for about an hour and a half. Should have been a half-hour chat. And then he made a note of it all. He went, yes. And he rang back and then made a few more alterations, sent me a draft of it. I said, yeah, that's good. That's brilliant. And after reading it all, I thought, if I didn't know that was me, I'd think that's not a bad story, actually. So Dave Seeger knew more about it than what I did, and he was right. And it's got 16 chapters in it, 16 people's stories and their interactions with the club and how to become fans and how they go to games. Like, I don't really go anymore. I've not been since 2019, and then I stopped going in just after the League Cup loss to Chelsea in 2007, was it? So I didn't go from 2007 until 2019, roughly, because for the same reason as Mark, because quite frankly, it was shit. Oh, it was awful, and wasn't very good. Sorry about that. It wasn't good, and I could see Wenger had given up, and so I gave up and stopped going. And it's a really good book. And he did a launch at the Armoury after the Newcastle game, and Per Mertesacker was there, Jack Wilshere was there. And he's done Charlie Patino. Is that how you say Charlie Patino? Now I'm saying in that head, that sounds like some kind of paint treatment.
It sounds like some mafia boss or something like that, doesn't it? Really?
He might well be. He's only little, and he had a limited number that Charlie had signed, and it's just a really good book. Hopefully, he'll bring out an audio version. I'll read it for him if he wants. I'll do it for nothing. But it's another line in brilliant books that Dave Seeger has done, and you can get it from Legends Publishing.
Brilliant.
Actually, you'd be a good voice for that, Dan.
I'll do it, yeah. And there's another one as well that I might be in. There's Paulo. Oh dear, there's a bloke is writing a book about the Wenger years, and I just happened to put him on to. I think you might be involved with it as well, Mark. What was his name?
Darren.
No, he's a journalist.
Sorry.
Oh, okay. Someone has contacted me, but I haven't sort of got back.
Anyway, so he's doing a book. And he was just interested because I said I knew all about Wenger before he came to Arsenal. And I don't know anyone else who did. Only because I read in 442 an interview with Glenn Hoddle when Glenn Hoddle was saying that Arsene Wenger was the best manager he's ever worked with. And I knew Gary Lineker was Nagoya Grampus 8 with him. So that's another one that's coming out. He said he might put some of my quotes in there. Don't know why I'd want to do that.
Well,
they're not as good as Mark's books.
Very highbrow for us normally. This talking about all these books, but we're going to get back to something cold and shivery, which was last Saturday afternoon, 12:30. I'll tell you what, it was absolutely Baltic at the Emirates. It was cold. The atmosphere was flat, especially in the first half. The beer, I refused to drink the beer because. I had a pint of that Camden the week before, and it was that bad it turned my guts. And I'm just not paying £6.20 for awful product. And there's no point in complaining to them because the people behind there, God bless them, they're just doing a job. But they will not have a clue. Lineups: we had Ramsdale, Tomiyasu, White, Gabriel, Tavares, Saka, Thomas. Partey with Lokonga, Smith Rowe, Odegaard started, and Aubameyang up top. Trev, what did you make of the lineups? Were you happy with the lineup? Were you comfortable with it? And what did you make of the overall first half performance?
Yeah, I was very happy with the lineup. Apart from, I do feel sorry for Lacazette because he's a trier and he always seems to be the one that that gets substituted or dropped. So I felt sorry for Lacazette because he's done no worse than Aubameyang, no worse at all. But apart from that, the lineup was fine, and I thought we'd win comfortably. And the first half, we were playing against a side with a new manager. There's always some effect from that, Fergus. But I wasn't worried. Never thought from the first minute that we were going to lose that game of football against Newcastle at the weekend. Never thought for 1 minute. As I laid in bed in the warm watching it while you were there freezing cold, mate.
I would freezing got a 1 pint of beer in me as well, and it was flat as hell. Mark, you watched the game. I did check that because I know sometimes you decide not to. So I did check before you came on that you watched the game. What did you make of the game, and what did you make of, say, in the first half? Let's look at Tavares in particular, who had, for me, had an overall a great game. But his pot shots and his shots from way outside the box, No,
I only watched the last 5 minutes, mate.
Yeah, thanks.
No, I watched the whole game. No, I did sort of allude to you beforehand that I'd rather have a defender like Tomiyasu who's solid. Because my view is defenders defend. And I thought Tavares was all over the place, to be honest. I know he set the first goal up, etc., blah, blah. Right? But his job is to defend, it's not to attack. We've got enough forward-thinking players. And yeah, he had a good game, but he definitely wasn't man of the match. I mean,
do you not think that the modern day left and right backs are more attacking like wingers than defenders these days? They're expected to run the lines. They're expected to cross the ball in. So Tomiyasu was doing what he was asked to do in a modern society, don't you think?
Yeah, but he's much more solid defensively, and that's his role. His role was to defend.
Sorry, not Tomiyasu. Tavares. Sorry, Tavares. Sorry.
I think he's good going forward, but I mean, I'm not convinced about his defensive qualities. And he was all over. He was over the shot. I mean, how many shots did he have in the first half that went over the bar?
I think he took 4 skyward shots, and then it wasn't helped by the crowd shouting "shoot" every 5 minutes.
No, the players do that because they've been told not to by the manager, so they actually obey what the manager says.
Ferg, can I interject here, boys? Can I put something else into this thought? In that, it's a strange setup we use defensively at the moment at the Arsenal, but I don't mind it at all. In that, we've got our solid central defenders in White and Gabriel, right? And then we've got Tomiyasu and Tavares, who like bombing up and down the flanks as well. But what I've found is, when Tomiyasu and Tavares get forward in a back four, we never seem to be short of the back. I think because we find them that the other midfielders drop in behind them quickly. If Tavares is bombing up the line or Tomiyasu, the other midfielders seem to drop in behind them and have that little bit of cover for them. I think Tavares fought first half against Newcastle after last week's performance against Liverpool. I owe Arsenal here. I owe us a goal. And I think the young man maybe got a bit carried away, but I didn't think he was real bad. A lot of people have really got into him. I didn't think he was real bad. And second half, I think maybe someone had a word with him at half time. And second half, he was much more controlled and much more effective, wasn't he?
He was. And some of the comments by Heath that like he was lucky not to take a floodlight out, and his shots were no worse than boomerangs. Dan, what were your thoughts on Tavares and more so Tomiyasu? You know, he came close to scoring in the first half. I was at the other end, but you could see where he's going. He had nowhere to go with the ball, and he just saw a gap just beside the bottom corner of the bottom post, and he just went, you know what, sod it, I'll take a pot shot. It was no better opportunity, and he was unlucky not to get that goal. What did you make of his performance in that game?
I don't like to see. I agree with Mark. I don't like to see my fullbacks turning into wing backs, turning into wingers, turning into outside forwards or whatever that old thing was. I don't want to see that, especially when you've got Aubameyang on there and you've got Odegaard on there, but there's not enough goal scoring threat from the centre of midfield. And so maybe that's why those players have to have pot shots. Plus, when you're playing against Newcastle and they're playing 11 men at the back, because they know they're going to lose eventually, and they've got a horrendous record this season. It's like, was it you, Mark, that put that Newcastle are the new Invincibles?
It was Andy. Andy put that.
I always get you two mixed up with your tweets. I know you are separately, but that's we put a screen grab of all Newcastle's results this season and put the new Invincibles because they've lost every. But they know they're going to get smashed wherever they go, and so they're playing very defensive football, trying to catch us on the break. I mean, John Joe Shelby was doing the same thing. He was having pot shots, but why? I often wonder, as a footballer, how hard is it to get a shot on target? Now, Tavares obviously can't, and one day they're just Tavares and Partey are just like Xhaka for the last 4 seasons, constantly taking pot shots, and maybe one out of every 50 might ricochet and go in or be an absolute screamer, like we saw with Timo Pukki last night, an absolute screamer, but he got it on target and he knew what he was doing. Why the manager lets them do it, I don't know. I mean, I'm not overly fond of Tavares at left back. I want someone who can defend. The whole point of buying Tomiyasu, who is more of a centre back than a right back, is the fact that when the left back, whatever you want to call those players, like Tierney makes a run down the left, Tomiyasu becomes the third centre back. And the same what Tierney does for Scotland when Tomiyasu doesn't play for Scotland, in case anyone's wondering that he does. When Tomiyasu is making a run, then Tierney goes into a back three, which he does for Scotland the entire time because they've got the Liverpool players at Robertson. They've got him playing as the more left wing back, and so Tierney plays the entire time at left centre back. And he played 2 games in a row, played almost 2 full games for Scotland, and he was dropped or didn't start the next 2 games, and that worries me because Tavares obviously is not ready. We saw against Liverpool, top class opposition, they turned him inside out. He can't do the job. Now, Tommy's really good. I like Tommy. I've got plenty of time for Tommy. He seems to have a good game, then a bad game, then a good game. So I'm expecting him to have a bad game against Man United. But why they keep having these pot shots is just wasting it.
No, I do agree with the pot shots. Trev, Dan's raised a few points on there, in particular the question that we have about Tavares, and we're talking. You know what? I think we're going to cover this game and half cross into the Man United game as well, because Tavares, I think, was poor against Liverpool. I think you're correct in saying that he was trying to make up for his poor performance, and I think he did make up for his poor performance against Liverpool and his errors against Liverpool in the game against Newcastle. Kieran Tierney was warming up the whole game in front of us on the North Bank, but didn't come on. Would you drop Tavares, who's on form, for Tierney on tomorrow night?
Yeah, well, do you know what? Firstly, I think, Dan, that was a little unfair, son, on Tavares, saying he was the poor one at Liverpool. He was outclassed. I think, if we're honest with ourselves, most of our team were outclassed at Liverpool. We were a young side beaten by a better team in most areas of the park. No, well, it's an interesting thing tomorrow. I saw it on social media yesterday, and it got my thoughts going, Ferguson, that someone mentioned that the lad Saka is likely not to be able to start the game tomorrow. And I saw this comment and I thought, yeah, I agree. If Saka's out the side, does this give him a chance to start Tavares and Tierney on the left in the same team? I'd certainly rather see Tavares and Tierney than shoehorn Saka in on the left. I think either of Tavares or Tierney could play further up the field and play and do a job for us. So it's an interesting thing. I don't want to drop Tavares. I know he's been in and out, but I think he's a class player, and the only way he'll improve is by playing him in games. I think that's been our fault, by the way, in recent years, that our youngsters have never got a run in the side. They've always been in, out, and never got a bit of, consistent experience. So, no, I don't want to see Tavares dropped, but I'm desperate to see Tierney back in the side. And I'd love for us to somehow, Fergus, squeeze them both into the team tomorrow night. Whether we do or not, I don't know. Whether we can or not, I don't know.
And Trev, moving on from Tavares and the wing backs, Aubameyang, he was mentioned that the reason Tavares is putting pot shots in is because Odegaard wasn't performing well. Aubameyang wasn't performing well. Aubameyang, it was easier to bloody score the goal than hit the post that on the goal he done. What did you make of his performance in the game on Saturday?
What is it? Do you know what, Fergus? My opinion on Aubameyang changes almost by the minute, mate. I think to myself, we pay a striker to score goals, and he's not scored goals for a long time now. This hasn't been a short-term lack of form. It's been a long time he's not scored goals for. But when I watch him, he seems to be running around the field, but he's just not getting into the position to score goals. So it was somewhere in the back of my head, is he not getting a service from the central midfield, But then two things on Saturday. Firstly, he misses that sitter he hits the post, and you think to yourself, he don't look that upset with that. As a matter of fact, there was a bit of a smile on his face, a bit of a wry smile on Aubameyang's face. If I'd have missed that at my age, I wouldn't have been smiling. I'd have been pulling what's left of my hair out, mate, and thinking, what am I doing? And then the thing a bit later on in the game is Martinelli comes on, makes the run that we've all been crying out for our forwards to make, and immediately scores a goal. So there's something different. Something's changed up front. It's fresh legs, and it's a different run. It's different angles, and maybe it's younger legs. Maybe it's a different outlook. But I think Martinelli coming on and scoring so soon sort of says, yeah, we need a forward function. I said it last week, Fergus, we need forward functioning, and we've not had it. We've not had it, not just this season, most of last season.
I had a chat with James Power, you'll know him, Trev, from the football, before the game. And I was talking about Aubameyang, and I was saying how poor of a season, 18 months he's had, and he tried to coincide that with Arteta's position. But even still, he did make a good point, which was, if you're not getting the correct service from the midfield as a forward, it's the worst job that you can ever have as being a striker, because if you're not getting the ball, you're just going to be hung out to dry. Mark, Odegaard, Martinelli, Smith Rowe, that Saka, that midfield thing. Once Martinelli came on, Trev pointed out that he was on only a few minutes, and he scored a goal. Is it Aubameyang's just off form, or is it Martinelli gel better with that midfield? What changed?
Well, if you think about last season when we were thinking we were going to get relegated, the three players who made a difference were Saka, Smith Rowe, and Martinelli, weren't they? You know, they played 5 or 6 games from the Chelsea game onwards, and the season seemed to turn around. So obviously those three are utterly central to the way we should be playing and do play. Obviously Martinelli got injured, didn't come in. I mean, personally, I think that he should be playing Lacazette as a central forward because he brings everyone into play, whereas Aubameyang's more of a he gets the ball, he shoots. So Lacazette brings the ball in, looks to who he's going to play it to, and people play off him. Aubameyang is a solitary player in many ways. He's not someone who brings others into the game. I think Lacazette brings people into the game, and I think that's where they should be doing it. I don't see why they bring Odegaard on. He brings Odegaard on when Lacazette's playing, because I can't see the point of Odegaard, to be honest, when you've got Smith Rowe in your team. But, you know, I don't know. I'm sure he brings things to the team, and he's not a bad player. It's just that I don't know whether he fits into our way of doing things. I don't know. I don't. He's a to me, he's neither here nor there. I'm sure he's a decent player, but you know, from our perspective, I don't see what he brings to us.
Dan, thoughts on this?
I used to get really annoyed with Wenger when he'd get players and play him out of position. One of my 2 players that it makes me cry to think about what Wenger did to them is Arshavin and Podolski. World-class players, stuck them out on the left-hand side, ruined their careers. It worked with Lauren, who was a right midfielder, played him at right back, turned him into a fantastic right back. Gilberto, centre back, moved him to defensive midfield, outstanding player. And Ashley Cole, another one, he was a left winger, and then, or maybe even a striker, made him a left back, to probably the best left back the Premier League's ever seen. And Lacazette should not be playing in the 10. He hasn't spent the entire of his career being a marquee striker, not getting the chances for France because the manager doesn't like him, but for Lyon, when he first came to us, he was fantastic, a wonderful player to watch, a great goal scorer, almost Ian Wright-esque, and I loved him. You can't play him in that 10 because he's not a 10. He hasn't got the ability. He's no Giroud where he can play with his back to goal and set stuff up. He should not be playing there. The only time Lacazette should be on that pitch is when Aubameyang isn't on form. So I'd start Lacazette ahead of Aubameyang at the moment because Aubameyang just doesn't look like he cares. Odegaard, he's the captain of Norway. He was at Real Madrid. He was fantastic at Zaragoza. That bloke has got more skill than most of that first 11 in his little finger. He's absolutely stunning. Oh, there you go.
There's a graphic I've just put on the screen for people on audio in terms of pressure made per 90 minutes and distance covered per 90 minutes. Martin Odegaard is currently the hardest working player in the Premier League. It doesn't look like it when I'm watching him. I do think he waves his hands around a lot, and he's talking to his colleagues and his fellow players a lot, and he's getting very frustrated. You can see him putting some effort in, but it just doesn't seem to work. I don't know if we're not good enough for him. Is the squad we got good enough for him, or is he just overblown?
Ferg, listen, right? Dan makes 2 really good points there. Firstly, I couldn't agree more with you, Dan, than about Podolski. Podolski, I was so frustrated with Wenger every week because he did ruin Podolski. Absolutely ruined him. And the other point about the midfielders, you know, and I said it, I said it recently, but with our strikers, right, I've got 3 internationals playing behind them now. They've got 2 England internationals and the captain of Norway playing behind them. So they're not bad, them lads. You know, they're not bad at all. Saka and Smith Rowe play for England, who have got lots of options in that position, but are playing for England, you know. So you do have to look to the striker for the fix, I think, Fergus. You do it. I'll probably change my mind tomorrow, you know what I mean? Because things swing you every day, but you do have to look to the striker. And come January, I think it's make or break time. We buy a striker and we either take off and we fly and we're gone winning game after game because that's what we didn't have. or all us people that are doubting the striker are proved wrong because we bring in a new striker and nothing changes. I've got a funny feeling that if we bring in, and someone just mentioned Giroud, a Giroud type up front, or just someone different that's going to lift the side and refresh it, then I think we'll be away. I really think it is the missing link, the final bit of the jigsaw, mate.
We only have one avenue of football at the moment, Fergus, don't we? We need someone like we've been linked to Vlahovic of Fiorentina, and we've apparently offered 80 million, and they said no, he wants to go to Juventus, but Juventus are in trouble at the moment for more shady deals. But at the moment, the only way we can do stuff is we've got Martinelli, and Eddie doesn't play anymore, and Lacazette. Neither of them are going to jump up in the air and head stuff down, either to try and score or to lay it off to someone else, are they? We've only got one dimension of play up front. You need more than that. You need two or three.
I think Lacazette does bring people into the game. He brings people into the game.
He does, but he doesn't hold up. He doesn't hold up play.
Yeah, but that's not the same. That's not the same as bringing people into play. I know he's not like Giroud was.
No, they're different players. Okay, yeah.
He's never scored a scorpion kick for a start.
Well, he does run around like a blue-ass fly, as my mum would say. His work rate it reminds me a little bit of Sanchez. Sanchez used to get so frustrated, he'd go and get the ball off the goalkeeper, run the length of the pitch. Lacazette shouldn't be having to do that. He's not as skilled as Sanchez was. But Lacazette tries really, really hard, whereas Aubameyang seems as if he's standing there smoking the woodbine, waiting for half-time pint of bitter. It worries me.
Let's talk about the goals, and then we'll move on to the United game and so on. So you got Saka's goal first of all, a great assist from Tavares, but a bit of a wonder move. Dan, I'll come to you on this one then. On Saka's goal, what did you make of his goal? And unfortunately, he was soon injured there afterwards.
Yeah, I was looking at it again. It's really hard to remember without looking at it, refreshing my mind what happened. It was just good midfield play from Lokonga with Tavares back and forth, then out to Saka, then Smith Rowe was involved, then Saka again, then Saka come in and scored from a tight angle, which is what you want from them. Like Hillsey was saying, we've got so many players, creative players, but we don't seem to have every defence magnificent, creativity really good. But then when it comes to putting the goals away, Lacazette and Aubameyang aren't doing it. And luckily, Smith Rowe's been on form recently. What did he score? 3 or 4 goals in a row in 3 or 4 games. Yep. And then Saka's doing it. These are kids. These are still at the beginning of their careers. And Absolutely. You can't rely on them to do all this stuff. You need the more experienced players to be doing it. So at the moment, it's just got to be so grateful that Saka is doing it and doing it really well and being entertaining. And yeah, I'm just really glad that he scored that goal because we had 24 shots at goal. I think we had 6 on target, and that goal, as usual, when a goalkeeper comes to the Emirates, he's the ghost of Lev Yashin, and I hope that was a goalkeeper. I think it was.
Yes, yeah. It was.
Oh my God! But, they just have, and usually it was always Pavel Chernychek and Martin Krul playing for Newcastle. They just have wonder games. I mean, they blocked six shots. So.
Five shots on target. We had 9 shots on. We had 6 shots on target, 18 off target. They had 5 and 4. So yeah. So for a dull game, which it felt, that's a lot of shots at goal. That is a lot. There was 4 corners for each side, 5 fouls on the Arsenal side, 12 fouls by Newcastle, and one in particular, Trevor. The foul on Nuno Tavares by, is it Kraft? Nuno had got the better of him running along the wing, along by the touchline, by the dugouts. And he had beaten him once, he beat him twice, he beat him 3 times. And Kraft had no other option but to literally, from the angle, and you know where we are, Trev, from the angle, I'm looking down the line, and he is just coming. You can see his whole body has just moved with the force of the barge he gave. It's an assault. How he didn't get a red card for that, I'll never know.
Yeah, I thought it was a penalty. It was funny because first time I watched it on the telly, I thought, well, no, that's coming together. And then they turned the angle round, and I thought, oh, blimey, he's took him right out there.
No, that's the penalty shot. That's the penalty shot. I'm talking about the foul on Tavares by Kraft. The one you're talking about is the claim on Colin Wilson. Yeah, which was...
Maybe I was having a sip of tea when that one then, because I can't recall that, Fergus. Maybe I
I
was.
don't either, actually, True. I don't
To be honest, I
Well,
think it's because where we were, you could see it, and it hasn't been replayed on Match of the Day. It hasn't been replayed on Sky, but from the angle we all took a gasp of breath, and it's the difference of watching football in the stadium than watching on TV and the camera angles and so on. But now that you mentioned it, the Tavares barge on Wilson for a penalty claim, Trev, it was a penalty, wasn't it?
Oh, mate, no, I'm biased, Fergus. I support the Arsenal. Right? It was never a penalty in a million years. The one down the other end for us was a definite penalty. No,
Oh, that was actually.
On a serious note, Fergus, they could have both been given on their day, and they could have both been not given. On the day, they were both not given. I thought, as a sum a bit biased, I thought ours was a little bit more. I thought the bloke really went into him. But it's 50-50, and it? Some you get, some you don't. I wasn't going to get beat up about it because, as I think Mark said earlier, we knew we were going to win the game. It was going to be comfortable, and that was it. I just watched the second half. Just all I've got in my head is the goals. I'm just drooling over both the goals, Fergus. The passing for the first one was magical, and it was down our corner, wasn't it? And then, of course, the second goal we'll talk about in a minute. But do you know what? I've just got something in my head that's throwing me off track a little bit that Dan just said about players' careers being ruined, Dan, Wenger going, saved Lacazette because Wenger just didn't give Lacazette much of a chance at all. He signed him, then he hardly played him, then he brought him in and kept substituting him when you thought he was playing well, and I couldn't work it out. And Lacazette has my sympathy. For me, Lacazette is like a 7 out of 10 striker. He's never going to be a worldie, but he's never going to let you down, And so I just wanted to make that point that I felt sorry for him.
Well, Wenger signed him, didn't he? And he came in, and the first half of the season he was brilliant, and then he got injured around Christmas, but he carried on going until the January transfer window, and then Wenger was, I think he was quoted as saying once that when someone like Aubameyang comes up for sale and you have a chance to get him, you can't say no. And then Lacazette went off and had his operation, and then he came back. And that half a season for Aubameyang, he was absolutely get 15 in 18 or something like that. And we thought, here we go, we got another Henry here. He's going to get another 40 goal a season, man. But it's most clubs only need one of those two players, and having two of those players has kind of nullified each other a little bit, Fergus.
Yeah, I agree. Martinelli, his performance, he came on. He's been out of favour, Mark, with Mikel Arteta, or so people feel that he's been out of favour with Mikel Arteta. Do you feel that he has been out of favour with Mikel Arteta, and do you think Mikel Arteta now has to maybe eat a bit of humble pie following that explosive substitution?
I don't know, but what I do know is he ain't played him very much. So you can make as many suppositions as what you want. Is he out of favour? Is he this? He hasn't played him. Why he hasn't played him? None of us know, do we? We don't know why he hasn't played him. Most of it, I would have thought all of us would have thought, well, he's got to play Martinelli this game. We've got to bring him on half an hour to go if we're not breaking defences down. He hasn't done it. So yeah, there could be something going on. But
he's played 365 minutes this season. Xhaka has played 1 minute less, and Cedric Suarez has played 368.
Well, that says it all, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I'm impressed.
Why he's not playing him, I don't know. He showed against Newcastle, didn't he? He breaks teams down. And he can score goals out of nothing.
So Mark, do you start him again tomorrow night?
It depends how he wants to play, doesn't it? I mean, we went there last season and won, played really defensively, scored a breakaway goal and won. Our record at Old Trafford is appalling, to be honest. Historically, it's absolutely. I mean, in the FA Cups it's not, but in the league it's absolutely shocking. So to get a win, I think they're going to have to do the same. Just shut up shop and hope we not one in. And keep Ronaldo quiet, which would be quite easy to put away.
Dan, two questions for you. The first question is more on a professional basis, as you're a host of a podcast. They say you shouldn't work with children, animals, and authors, I think, is the other one, isn't it? Apparently.
I have heard that.
and the second one is put in by Richard Butler. The second one is put in by Richard Butler in the chat. Would have Mikel brought on Martinelli if it wasn't for Saka's injury?
No.
You don't know, do you?
Definitely not. I mean, one thing I did think from the game that annoyed me is that when Saka went off at some point, rather than he should have moved. Well, I was something about the game. He should have brought on somebody else and moved the players around. So who did he? He brought on Lacazette, did he? Oh, that's it. He brought on Lacazette and replaced. Was it Partey that it took? No, it took Saka off. At some point, I remember thinking, "Hold on, why has he left Aubameyang on the pitch? Why didn't he play Lacazette up front?"
Martinelli was put on for Saka, and then Lacazette came on, and then El Neni came on later on in the game.
I don't know the point I was trying to make, but I remember thinking you need to shuffle that around a little bit. I wanted to see Smith Rowe play at a 10, and then but it didn't happen. It might have been the last game.
I think
I'm going to shush.
I think Odegaard would have been hooked, but not for Martinelli. I thought he would have got a little bit more defensive on the day. I thought Odegaard was struggling a bit, but he did get better. Go on, Trev.
Ferg, I just putting a different perspective on the Martinelli thing, and I promise I won't drift again. I'm sorry for that, my mate. In that,
I've got my finger on that.
Regardless of whether Martinelli is playing brilliantly or not, right? If you've got a striker that's playing as poorly or is in as poor a form as Aubameyang, why hasn't Arteta just thought, I need to change the tune? I need to just stick someone else in there, because whoever I put in there, be it Martinelli, be it Balogun, be it Nketiah, be it Lacazette, be it whoever I put in there, he's going to do no worse than Aubameyang. So that's why he's persevered with Aubameyang for so long. I can't work out when he's got these other options that are maybe not going to pull any trees up, but they're not going to do any worse. So yeah, I was quite pleased. I didn't think I'd see Aubameyang get substituted, but he did get substituted 76 minutes at the weekend, didn't he? Kai. I love Kai. Right, when I see him at the ground, we get on ever so well. He's a good lad. I like talking to him, but he always picks on me on this podcast, doesn't he?
It's the Xhaka effect, though, isn't it? The same reason he keeps bringing Xhaka back, no matter what Xhaka does, and same with Aubameyang. It's maybe maybe they bully him.
Absolutely, mate.
Maybe they threaten to mess up his hair. Hey,
they've got nudes. They've got nudes.
Cheeky.
Right. So tomorrow night, 8:15, Amazon Prime. Round the houses very quickly. Do we start Tavares or KT? Mark, one-liner, Tavares or KT?
Tierney.
Dan?
Tierney.
Trev?
Both.
How's that going to work?
Controversial.
Both.
I'd go Tavares simply because why drop the guy when he's on form? And yeah. Second one, do you start Martinelli? And if so, who do you drop? Trev, starting with you.
Richard Butler's put a question up there, and a good question, Richard. Would you guys drop Alba tomorrow? And I would definitely sit Alba on the bench and play Martinelli. Yeah, I would. Yeah, because it can only improve us, I think.
Dan,
I think I would normally, if it's any other team, and we were at home, I'd say probably start him. But I think as an impact sub, he could be amazing because they're going to be run ragged by our players, and you bring him on for the last 20 minutes, and they're going to be in trouble. I said that without swearing.
You've done really well. I could see your lip gone. Mark.
Well, something that Dan just said. I was going to say. Liverpool used to play a player. It's Fairclough, wasn't it, Kev?
Oh, the super sub, Ginger.
Yeah, right. So I see Martinelli.
You can't say that these days.
I see Martinelli as that type of player, because when he started for most games, he hasn't looked very good. And it might come back to the fact the way we play and it doesn't suit forwards, the way the forwards are dropped. But when he comes on, he looks really good. So I think he's more of a fair club. Bring him on for the last half hour. Myself.
I at the start of this was thinking Martinelli, you bring him on because Saka's going to be dropped because of his injury. But listen to your points about the impact thing, because I do, and Mark, what you said there about when he started, and it seems like if he doesn't get into the game, his head drops quite a lot as well. Yes. So,
because he's young. He's young.
Yeah. I get that. I'm on the fence. I'm sorry, I'm on the fence. I'd like to see him start because I want him to get game time more than anything else. But I want him to have good game time. So if good game time means he comes on as a sub, fine. So what are we going on predictions? You know, two of my brothers are Man United fans, and one of my nephews, and they're going to be absolutely hammering me on WhatsApp and Messenger. I said I'd done a little fan cam thing for Lee Judge's TV on Saturday after the Newcastle game, and I said towards the end of it, I'm less fearful going into the next two away games than I would normally be, because Everton and Man United are both difficult away trips for us historically. But I'm not, I can't say I'm confident, but I'm more confident than I'd normally be. Trev, 4-0 is it?
No, not at all, Fergus. We used the term last week about us fans, not players, us fans and our confidence as supporters about how our team are going to perform. And you're right, it's been a case for me all season personally. I've not felt dread before any games. Even when we got beat 4-0 at Liverpool, I wasn't dreading going there like I have in recent years. I think that if we play our youngsters, and we talked about Martinelli, I think Martinelli could well be, if he starts, could well be the one that's going to run what has been at times a static Man United defence around a bit. And I want to see us press on against them, and I want to see us start really quickly early in the games, like we have been doing, like we did at Leicester, you know. And I think we can win at Man United tomorrow night, and I think we can win by a couple of goals to nil. I love our defence at the moment. I love the fact that behind our defence, when the opposition get a chance and it's on target, we've got a goalkeeper there that you think it's going to have to be good to beat this goalkeeper, because, you know, we've got a blinding goalkeeper here. And he proved it again against Newcastle. Newcastle got, you know, the chance, and there was Ramsdale to save us. So I think it'll be I fancy a 2-0 win for us tomorrow night. Start early, start quickly again early, like we did at Leicester, as I said. Get an early goal and get a bit of our youngsters' confidence up. And who knows? And while we're talking about early goals, you know, don't forget the first half hour against Liverpool. We held our own. We weren't we weren't embarrassed when we played against Liverpool. Who's to say if we hadn't if we hadn't sneaked an early goal in that game against Liverpool, who's to know what would have happened? Who's to know what would have happened? You know,
so lost 4-1.
No,
I totally agree with you. I thought we were unlucky in the first half to go one down. Obviously, the second half they destroyed us. But in the first half, I thought we gave a really good account of ourselves. And had we carried on that way in the start of the second half, we could well have got out of that with a draw. But you know, they just fell apart, didn't they? So
it all started with Arteta threatening to give Klopp a right, ruin them pearly whites, didn't it?
It did indeed. Yes. That sort of changed the atmosphere in the stadium, didn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't like that mantra and stuff. Mark, what's your thoughts on the that mantra, that line, that the argument on the touchline lit up Anfield?
You know, it changed the atmosphere completely.
We changed we changed the atmosphere completely. We silenced Anfield. We silenced the cop for 40 minutes.
Yeah. And then got him to life, did he? By threatening to.
Yeah, it is poor judgment on the point. Yeah, but what's your view on the Man United result? What you expect, and will Carrick
tomorrow night, I don't know. It's
Now,
tomorrow. How do I
what's-
know what the result's going to be? I think historically we normally lose there. Right, whatever anyone says about Arteta's got a great result, historically we are shocking at Old Trafford. And last season was refreshing. If we go there in the cup, I'll always think we'll do well and maybe win. I saw Gav say during the week on Twitter. He said he's been there 4 times and we won 4 times, which is a massive anomaly. And then he said it's all 4 FA Cup games, no league games. So I think we're going to get draw.
I've never seen us lose at Old Trafford. I've never seen us lose at Old Trafford.
I've only been there once, so
I've never been.
Well, yes. No, we have a very, very poor record there. I think we'll draw.
No, I get that. Okay, that's fine. Dan, what's your thoughts and predictions? Will the new manager be our caretaker manager be in the ear of Carrick? Will that have an influence on how the game works, or do you think we still got a little bit of an advantage by the new caretaker manager not being in place?
Well, that is as far as I know, a Premier League first where they've got a caretaker who's a caretaker for a caretaker. And I don't know how that's going to mentally affect the players, but he's had 2 games in charge. He's had 2 half-decent results. Did they win both of them? I think one in the Champions League and one in the league. Dropped Ronaldo for the last one.
Drew against Chelsea and but got battered in the process.
I watched the game. Yeah. If we can get a draw away, I'll be happy with it. But you would think that if there's no better time than to go there and get a win when Man United are playing awfully. It's a shame Ollie isn't there, because then I would have definitely said we would win. But Carrick seems to have some kind of understanding with the players because he's been there for so long. And it's one of them ones where I'm not sure how it's going to go. I think we can win it, but then again, so can they. But there's no better time to go there and try and beat them like we're going to tomorrow. But I'm excited for it. But I'm also a little bit nervous about it. I never like playing there. We've had such bad luck over the years, and the referee isn't going to help either.
Who we got?
I did read it before, but then I've now forgotten who they're.
No, referee helps, do they? So.
I'm gonna go. I think we'll just nick it 2-1. I've got this feeling that we've got to come good at United in the league sooner rather than later. There's never a better time. Yes, I agree. I'd like Ollie to be in charge because I think Ollie is the best bus driver in the world. And yeah, Dan. Finally, just before we finish up on this, because I want to talk about Ray Kennedy. What's your score prediction for the Man United game?
1-1, sadly.
Heathen.
2 draws and 2 victories.
I agree with Dan. 1-1.
Heathen.
I can see us going 1-0 up, and then them getting, I don't know, a Ronaldo screamer from the halfway line or a dodgy penalty. We're going to get mugged off as usual.
We've only had one penalty this season.
Putting a graphic up here for a black background with a cannon on it. Bow your head, lad. Hear this cannon sound. Time to take your flag. A gunner's down. We're talking about Ray Kennedy. Ray Kennedy, who scored 3 times in 17 appearances for England. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease in 1984. He scored 71 goals in 212 appearances for Arsenal, winning the First Division and the FA Cup double in 1971. Before joining Liverpool in 1974, during an 8-year spell at Liverpool, he scored 72 goals in 393 appearances and won 5 league titles and 3 European Cups. He also played for Swansea, Hartlepool before retiring in 1985. He was diagnosed with Parkinson's in 1985. He retired. 1984, retired from football in 1985, and I had a testimonial between Liverpool and Arsenal, which was held at Highbury in 1991. I'll turn to the historian first and foremost. Mark, talk to us about Ray Kennedy. I will have to excuse myself from this conversation. I'm just going to sit back, indulge, and learn.
Well, I mean, he was an amazing. Well, it wasn't like. I mean, forget it. Hillsy, right? Bear me out here on this one, because I was had the impression that he was really respected, but unlike Charlie George, he wasn't like revered on the terraces. You knew if he played in your team, you should get a result, because he was a really, really top class player. But I can't recall any songs about him from the terracing. I mean,
I'm with you there, but you know, I was a very it's hard to believe, but I was a very, very young man when I watched Ray Kennedy. The difference between Kennedy and George, I think, Mark, was that Kennedy was Charlie George was the local Islington lad. He stood on the terraces, and they adored him for that as much as his football. Kennedy was a northern lad, and he came down to Arsenal as a youth player, didn't he? He broke into the side, I think, the season before we won the double, and he played every game bar one in the double winning season, and that includes the FA Cups, the League Cups, and the European competitions. It's been very sombering for me this week. I'm not going to get too deep, don't worry, but Ray Kennedy played. I actually watched Ray Kennedy play. He was one of my first heroes. I went to my first game in December 1970. And it puts a different perspective on it when these players get old and they unfortunately pass on, when you've actually seen them play and you've watched them and they've been your heroes, you know. He was a wonderful player. Mark will put me right here, Fergus, if you put us back on screen. He was a wonderful player ahead of his time. I think he was the youngest player in that 1971 team.
Yeah.
Charlie George was the darling youngster, but Ray Kennedy was younger than Charlie, just broken into the side. And you know, we'll go back to Mark now, but you know when we all sing "We Won the League at White Hart Lane" in '71, that was Ray Kennedy. 3 minutes to go, he heads the winner. So yeah, that's my thoughts for what they're worth, Mark. We can go back to you, mate.
I mean, he did say actually after he scored, I was doing a bit of reading for the obituary I'm doing. He wished he hadn't scored. Because after obviously, is when we went into the game, we had to win or draw 0-0. If we'd have drawn 1-0, we wouldn't have won the league. So he said the last couple of minutes, Spurs just absolutely bombed forward, and they were slightly worried, you know, to be polite, that Spurs were going to score, because they were all, you know, they basically come all over us. Obviously, they didn't. But he did say he wished he hadn't scored, because it would have quietened everything down if we got 0-0, because 0-0 was good enough for us. No, he was. I mean, he was colossal. So he won the league and the FA Cup with us. Fairs Cup, we scored the goal away to give us.
He did, yeah.
When we were
the one that gave us hope to make it 3-1. Yeah.
30 minutes brought him on. He knocked one in about 8 minutes or so to go. Got us a bit of hope. He didn't play in the Highbury side because me wanted basically the same team. And as we were talking earlier, he only really got into the double winning side at the start because Charlie George broke his ankle in the first game of the season. So Kennedy was next cab off the rank, and then that was it. He played every single game for the rest of the season. So, you know, and it was really his link up play with Radford, who was he was the central, the bulwark of the forward line. But when you read about Kennedy as well, he was quite a tough player, wasn't he? He wasn't just like someone who took the ball off Radford, who was the big burly player, and Kennedy was a small one. They were both big blokes, weren't they? They both took a hell of a lot of knocks. But say Kennedy left us. Once after he left us, he won 5 league titles, 3 European Cups, League Cup, and a UEFA Cup with Liverpool. And when he retired, he was the most decorated English player in history up to that point. And I think only Cole has actually won more medals than him now as an English player. So he was so successful.
It was when he went to Liverpool, he was a revelation, wasn't he? Because he had lost a bit of form at Arsenal for whatever reason it was. But then the whole of the Arsenal team started to lose a bit of form.
The whole thing, wasn't it? Yeah.
But and he went to Liverpool and they transformed him into a midfield player, didn't they? And not really, from my recollection, not the most attacking midfield player either for an ex-striker. He sat deep and he controlled the game. from my recollection. And but I can't remember any malice towards him when he left. He went to one of our greatest rivals, Liverpool. There was no malice because he did, as you said, he scored some of the goals that allow us to have the great memories about our football club now, So it was a shame because I'm not going to dwell on the negatives, but he had to sell all his medals in the early 90s to pay for his treatment, which was very, very sad. And his England caps, and it wasn't the best period for him. But we're not going to reflect on that. Let's just remember. I mean, you look at him there in that picture. There, he's a big fella. He's a real big.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, I mean, he's out.
Go on, mate. Go on.
I mean, I was doing a bit more reading about his illness, and the person who wrote his autobiography with him, and is Andrew Lees. He worked with him on the Parkinson's, and he said Kennedy was recounting some of the things he felt after matches for Arsenal, and he said there's a possibility that the Parkinson's actually started in the double season, but it never actually came out until he was playing for Swansea in 82, 83, and then he could feel that things weren't right.
Wow.
But the doctor said there's a chance is that it was always in when he was playing, which makes his performances even more amazing.
Unbelievable. I've heard that as well, Mark. I've heard exactly the same thing, mate, that the Parkinson's was probably with him, unfortunately, long before it got diagnosed, and it probably held him back a bit. Well, if it held him back, how good a player could he have been, He was. I can't say he was a wonderful man because, unfortunately, I never met him. But what I can say is he was a great player. Gave me some great memories. He played in the first game I ever watched at Arsenal. He was a living hero to me, and sort of makes me think about my own age, if I'm honest, and where it's horrible, but I will never regret watching Ray Kennedy. The only thing that I feel that guts me is that the game at Tottenham in May 1971, my uncle used to take me to the Arsenal, Mark. He used to take me, and he wanted to take me down to White Hart Lane that night, and I was only coming up 9, and my dad said to him, I've just been down the high road, because we lived up near Tottenham. My dad said to him, I've just been down the high road. You're not taking Trev tonight. You're not taking an 8-year-old there to that game tonight. It ain't happening. And it was probably for the best, because from what I've heard, we took over every stand. It wasn't all ticket. We took over every stand in White Hart Lane. It was amazing what that team did for Arsenal football, the Arsenal Football Club. And Ray Kennedy was a massive part of that. And I've been very sad at the fact he's passed away this week. And
he was a leading scorer that season as well. And for the next 3 seasons, he was a leading scorer. So, I mean, the amount of, he scored 70 goals in 213 games. So it was like, we didn't, again, though, we were set up in those days we weren't set up to score a lot, were we? We were set up to not let in goals. So him and Radford, their goal scoring performances don't look fantastic, but in reality, they were brilliant, absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, they were. There's not a lot more you can say really, apart from it's so sad. He was a great man. He was only 70, 70 old nowadays, and as Richard Butler rightly says, 26 goals in the 71 season. As a teenager, you couldn't ask for more in them days, because you couldn't guarantee for every one of them 26 goals, he probably had 260 bruises and bumps, because it was a proper man's game.
Oh, yeah.
Dan, are you like me? The guys speak really highly of Ray Kennedy, and I know on the sports radio channels they're talking glowingly about him, both from Arsenal and more so from Liverpool point of view. And he also had an England career as well. Do you know much of him, or just what you're hearing now?
I know the history of him and the Arsenal team at that time, but I look back at the team that did the double that season, and most of the players I knew what they did, like Bob Wilson and George Graham and Charlie George. Yeah. Charlie's same birthday as me. I should know. Well, October the 10th. So it's just weird that I don't really know much about him. He retired just as I was getting into. Hey,
you look a bit younger than him.
Different year, cheeky. So it's just odd that, I mean, Frank McClintock, all these people, they went off into management and they did other stuff, but and obviously Pat Rice and other people like that. I know what they did. I know what they look like. I wouldn't have been able to pick out Ray Kennedy in a lineup. I don't know. Maybe it's because I read on Wiki that he went and ran a pub, so maybe he went away from football and did other things like a lot of people do. If it was someone who was that good a player, would have been on. Was he?
That's the point. He wasn't, because he got Parkinson's. He wasn't able to. That's why he wasn't seen.
Yeah,
it was just a case of, I read a quote. He said, I can't go. I can't fix myself out to go and watch a game of football because I think if I have a bad day, I have to stay at home, so I just watch it on the telly.
Yeah. He did try coaching, didn't he? He did go somewhere as a coach for a short while, when his playing career ended. I'm going to have to look it up, but I know he coached somewhere for a short while. But as you rightly say, boys, if he's carrying that Parkinson's disease and he's been carrying it for some time, he's not going to be very good, is he? So,
but also Trev, like, running a pub of footballers of that era didn't get paid the money they got now. They got good money for the day, but it still wasn't like it is now. I'm a friend with Terry Hurlock, and Terry Hurlock is still working for a living.
He was a great player.
And I met George Best, and I've been in his pub down near Marble Arch off the Edgware Road. He had a couple of pubs down there in the late 80s. So, it was not unheard of for them to go back into normal society. Yeah, they had a bit of money, like the Linekers and stuff. They got the Linekers bar down in sort of, okay, you're starting to get into the more, where they had a bit more money. But the players of that era didn't really have that much money at all.
Fergus, they either ran a pub, opened a sports shop, still worked within the club somewhere, or became a manager or a coach. That's what they did. Yeah. Couldn't retire the rest of their lives on their earnings.
You talk about that. My uncle played for Athlone Town, which is my hometown. He was a goalkeeper, and my claim to fame is he played in the Europa, what would be the Europa League, the UEFA Cup Winners' Cup, when Athlone won the League Cup, the FAI League Cup, and he saved a penalty against Standard Liège, and he done exactly that. When he retired through injury, he opened up a sports shop in the local shopping centre. But that was just the way they were. They're part of the community, part of the town. Listen, rest in peace, Ray Kennedy, Gooner, another Gooner down. And we were just talking, and without getting too depressive, because I'm going to finish this in a second, but you were talking about the 71 double winning side. And that's the second one that we believe is lost. The most of them are still around. And if you look at the 66 World
Cup, third from the squad.
Sorry to cut you off, pal.
No, that's fine.
The third one that played in that season, we believe, was passed away. We spoke about it earlier, Mark, didn't we?
Yeah, Roberts. Yeah, he was centre back for the first half of the season in the league. Didn't play in the cup. But he played when Simpson was injured, so he played half the season basically, and then Simpson come in and then he got his place back. But yeah, there's three. So there's George Armstrong, Roberts, and Kennedy. Yeah.
Apparently, Richard is a bit of a sato as well. He coached. He coached in Cyprus. Listen, guys, it's been really enjoyable. Dan, I hope you enjoyed breaking your duck live on the show.
Certainly did.
And yeah, it's been great having you on. Let people know where they can follow you and what your podcast is and your socials and everything else.
Just Bergkamp Wonderland on YouTube, or just type it into DuckDuckGo or Yahoo. Don't use the G one because they'll follow you and make noises in your garden. And you don't want to follow me on Twitter. I don't want any more people following me, telling me that I'm wrong. I want 0 followers. Then everything I say is obviously right. That's what I want. Yeah. So it's at the AFC podcast. That's it.
Brilliant.
Thanks for having me.
No, really appreciate it. Thank you. Mark, let people know, you got any more publications coming out soon? Or if they want to get somebody a good present for Christmas, where can they get your books?
Legends Publishing or Amazon, but I'd say Legends Publishing, or Decor Bhutan, which is the complete book.
Okay. And Mark, thank you for joining us. I would like to... that book, and you can also let me bring it up. Sorry, you can also go to thearsenalhistory.com to see what Trevor reads when he's sitting on the loo, because other people do other things. Trevor watches thearsenalhistory.com.
And I mean, there are links to all of our books on there. So, in all of the articles, basically.
Ferg, you make me laugh, and in the arsenalhistory.com is a wonderful, wonderful website, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. Don't start look if you're an Arsenal fan and you're interested in the history of the Arsenal. Don't look on that Arsenal history website if you've only got 5 minutes, because it sort of drags you in and it takes you to places you've never been before, and all you do is learn about our great football club. And I love it. I love the books and I love the website, and although it's been sad, I've thoroughly enjoyed tonight. It's been like a different perspective on what we've done tonight, Fergus. And I think it's also because I'm feeling much better. I'm still coughing a bit, but I can't wait till tomorrow night.
It's good that you're back. It's good that you're feeling better, mate.
Yeah, thanks, mate. I'm you know what? One thing that's worrying me about tonight, Ferg, I'm agreeing with every comment Richard Butler puts up. So
I know, it's bloody worrying, isn't it? Get your tinfoil hats at the ready.
It's greatly that I'm agreeing with everything Richard says, but it's been lovely tonight from this point.
I'll tell you what we need to do. We need to tell Richard what you actually had. It wasn't a cold. It wasn't a flu. It was what?
Oh, yeah, I had COVID. Knocked me for 6, yeah. Not put me on my backside. Lost a stone in a week. Couldn't. I'm not going to go into it because I don't publish all that goes on social media. My life is private at times, and that's private. But I had COVID and it wasn't very good. Fergus,
but it was real. It was real. That was my point.
Oh, mate, trust me, it was real. Trust me, it was real.
Thank you.
I know it doesn't affect everybody the same, and everybody should make their own decisions on whether they're going to have a jab or not have a jab, right? But let people make their own decisions.
Yep, 100%.
I am pleased. My mind is that double vaccination I've had quite possibly saved my life. But that's my view. I'm not going to push it on anyone else. I wanted the jab. I don't like these nasty comments where people are called nasty names because they do or they don't want the jab. Let people make their decisions. Yep. And that's what you got to do. Anyway, sod that. Listen. Tomorrow night, right? I'm going to be there shouting my head off. We're going to start really quickly. We're going to get 1-0 up within the first 15 minutes, right? 1-0 up within the first 15 minutes. Then we're going to score again just before half-time, 2-0. Then we're going to hang on.
You need another lay down.
And win 2-0.
Well, it's a possibility. It is a possibility.
On that note, you have been watching an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. It's Guns and Yellow Ribbons. If you like what we do, click the like button, click the subscribe button. We don't really care. We enjoy it. I enjoy just sitting here having a chat with the lads. Love it. Up the Arsenal. Come on, let's get it tomorrow.
You've been listening to Guns and Yellow Ribbons, an Arsenal podcast by Arsenal fans for Arsenal fans. Follow us on Facebook at Guns and Yellow Ribbons and Twitter at Guns and Ribbons. And remember to rate and review us too.